Hello, Australia and our beloved BAPeteers. It's the 6th of November 2016. We are broadcasting from the progressive bubble where it's not quite great again. However, be that as it may, my name is Franco, and as per usual, joining me are the nasty woman and bad hombre. Welcome, fellas.
Well, it's become a regular thing now. That's 3 weeks in a row.
I think so.
Actually, wait, probably 2 weeks in a row for people who got to hear the show. 3 weeks in a row for me because I got to hear the original broadcast that never happened.
Who are you? Bad hombre or nasty woman?
I'll be the nasty hombre.
Emerge. All right, let's jam straight into. I'm going to ram this right down your throat. Douchebag filter time.
I thought we had an excellent opportunity to claim that Jason would make the BAP great again.
Nasty women can't make the BAP great.
Okay.
I have one bit of douchebaggery news. I did indulge in watching a bit of Netflix last night, and I watched The Expanse. The first 2 episodes.
Oh, nice.
So
They've got the second season for that as well. They're making it. Netflix is.
Haven't they not finished yet? I've been meaning to check in. It's one I've been waiting for.
Oh, really? So, for those who can't remember from Jason's lauding of the program, it's basically set in space. Earth and Mars are at war, and in the middlemen in all this is the Belters.
It's got some nice social commentary in there.
Yeah, so it seems like it's a mix of quite a few shows. They've drawn a lot of inspiration from things like Total Recall, for instance, Altered Carbon.
Well, it's drawn most of inspiration from its very own books, Leviathan Awakes and stuff like that. So
Rubbish. Jason, rubbish. It's drawn its influences from a wide range of sources,
And I've just had
one of which happens to be its own books.
I'm talking more about how they've done sort of the screenplay and all that sort of where they've drawn inspiration. What's the classic Harrison Ford movie? Blade Runner. There's a lot of that sort of social dystopia type aspect. I love the premise of it. I love where they're going. It just seems a bit rough around the edges of execution at this point. And I can imagine they're doing it on the cheap, so the sets look a bit plasticky.
I think it was Sci-Fi Channel originally, wasn't it?
I think so.
So it would have been done on the cheap.
Yeah. But what they achieved with what was probably a limited budget is pretty good.
I love the Sci-Fi Channel. They do great stuff. Great stuff. Terrific, fantastic. You'll love it.
Have you, Dean, had a chance to watch The Expanse?
I went out of my way to recommend it to people when I saw it was being made, and I have yet to watch it myself.
Well,
what?
I know. I still haven't watched it.
I think if you go into the show watching it knowing that it's going to be a little bit rough around the edges, but the premise is awesome, then you're going to enjoy it. And I'm hoping, I don't know if this actually transpires during the season, but it gets a bit tighter or there's a bit more money.
Yeah, no, it does. It rolls together very nicely and maintains suspense all the way through.
Well, and again, it wouldn't. If it didn't, Netflix wouldn't have acquired it as a property they would continue to make.
But I mean, I think it really sucked in that sci-fi audience quite early. It got some good press and word of mouth and stuff.
There's
like
a bit of an absence though when you think about space set television series right now. There aren't any. No,
I mean, actually, I've been looking around trying to find something new to watch, and
the first time in
literally is not much.
Maybe
there's a new show that I've caught a couple of episodes of called Class, which is showing on SBS, I think, and it's a British
farmer.
It's a British.
Is it not on some sort of streaming technology?
Sorry, terrestrial TV. I was watching. I know.
Doesn't need to schedule his life around some sort of programming.
Oh well, no, because it's
the 1800s.
I think there's like an SBS version of iView, so you can.
SBS on demand.
Yeah,
I've yet to watch one of those on demand.
They're great. They work fun.
It's at your demands. If there's no demand from you to watch then you don't need to watch it.
This Class show, the best I can describe it is it's a Doctor Who kind of level of writing and scripting and.
Is this the one set in a school?
It's set around a school, and there seems to be.
I think it actually has a connection to the Doctor Who producers.
Does it really?
I believe.
Okay,
it's the Doctor Who universe.
I don't think I'll be necessarily keeping up with it because I found the Doctor Who, especially the new ones, a little bit. I mean, they were as schlocky as the old ones, and I think I've outgrown that kind of sci-fi. But it's interesting. Cool. It had some interesting ideas, and it seems to have a baddie of the week kind of thing, but maybe with an overall arc stretching through it.
I fucking hate villain of the week shows.
This one seemed, as I said, there's only been 2 episodes, and there was definitely a big introduction to the series, and then a villain of the week the next week kind of thing.
So yeah, they're all
feels very 90s to me.
Yeah. So I think we're keeping up with the sci-fi sort of theme at the moment, and Dean's got some griping.
I watched Star Trek Beyond just after we did the show last week. got home and I was like, I've got a choice of what I can do with my evening. I know. I've just got Star Trek. It came out. I didn't go to see it at the cinemas because I was worried. The last one before it, Into Darkness, was a piece of shit. I know you, Jason, who I'm pointing at for our viewers.
I'm a little more forgiving of that.
You're very forgiving of it. Benedict Cumberbatch and you obviously have a special relationship. He's your boy. And you always got his back. But the new film, man, it's just so hit and miss. And the writing is just so all over the place. And there's a fucking scene where they literally play Sabotage by the Beastie Boys while the Enterprise surface along on a wave of destruction as they just blow up all these enemy ships. Like they're a fucking surfboard going through a tube of a wave. It's fucking... I was hate watching it by the end of it.
Is it J.J. Abrams?
No, it's Fast and Furious, Justin Lin.
Oh. Now it makes a bit more
sense.
Yeah,
it's so... I'm guessing when Simon Pegg did the rewrite, there must have been certain scenes he had to leave in, and I'm hoping that was one of them.
So Simon Pegg rewrote the script, did he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So what happened? So obviously,
so he was working on it and went, "This is shit."
Yeah. Apparently, he's made a comment on the internet where they had to go through a second rewrite, I think, because the studio said it was too Star Trek-y, so he had to take some of the
Star Trek was too Star Trek
out of it, and maybe that's when they
and make it a little more Fast and Furious.
There's another scene with a fucking motorbike that they blow up the Enterprise as you always do in a movie. So that crashes, and then they find another ship on the planet crashed, and mysteriously there's a motorcycle on the ship. I've got no idea why you would have a motorcycle
because they wanted Christopher
on the
Pine
bridge
on a
of a spaceship. But yeah, no, they did. So they had a motorbike in a Star Trek film moment.
Was it The Great Escape?
It was as bad as the last one where they had a bloody ATV in Nemesis. It's why? Why do you have cars when you have transporters? Why do you have a fucking bike when you have a transporter?
And why is the bike on the bridge?
Why don't
did no captain ask this question?
And there's another bit where they beam people onto the villain ship at the end to fight them with their fists instead of just beaming the villain off. If you can beam on, you can beam someone the fuck off. Put him in the brig. Done. Crisis averted.
That would not have assisted the narrative in any way.
No. And Idris Elba was wasted in the role under layers of latex. He was wasted. Idris Elba from Luther.
Oh, right.
So he was in that.
He was the villain of the piece. But again, unrecognizable.
So great cast, terrible.
Really,
writing.
really good cast. Really, really, strong potential actors.
Who plays Spock again? He's good.
Zachary Quinto. He was still good. And Keith Urban, Carl Urban.
Is Carl Urban?
Carl Urban, who plays. It's a white male actor. Why am I going to remember his name?
McCoy.
Yeah, he plays McCoy really well.
What's the name of the Sulu representative then? D?
He's dead.
No, he's not.
Sorry, no, the
Chekhov guy dead. And Anthony Yeltsin, is it? Yeltsin? I can't remember his name.
Tragic dead.
The guy from Harold and Kumar.
Or Uhura. You can give me her name.
I can't. I don't know her name. I don't know her name. Okay. I remember it.
I was just making a point.
Yeah. Well made. Well made.
So in the reboots, J.J. Abrams directed the first two?
Yes. And he still produces these ones. They're produced by Bad Robot.
And I thought the first one was great. It was fantastic for a
reboot.
First
one. I didn't like the second one.
Second one I thought was okay.
I thought the first one was like a 7 out of 10, and then the second one was like a 4.5 out of 10. Like it was almost not shit. But then they had a white man play Khan, which I just didn't like. And this one was like a 5.5 out of 10. Like it was better than the second one, but still really just no justification to keep making these movies.
You can't,
especially when you look at the quality they're doing for Star Wars. Like it's just no justification.
Yeah, I guess in the war of the franchises, Star Wars will probably win out now.
Is it John Cho who plays?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was trying to remember his name from Harold and Kumar. Sorry.
Well done.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can make a movie around explosions. You can't make the explosions.
They tried.
There's a few directors who beg to differ.
Yeah.
I realise that. I think the secret sauce of Star Trek was always the plot is the main focus of the whole movie rather than the explosions. And the explosions were just a piece.
Yeah, and a Fast and the Furious director tends to be, it's about the chase scenes that's the central point of the movie and nothing else matters.
There were some beautifully filmed chase scenes. The first half of the movie is not, it's trouble, but it's not bad. And then it just goes downhill and downhill and downhill and downhill.
Did they have any moral dilemmas? That's always been a bit of Star Trek secret sauce.
No, not really. Not really.
I usually thought that was
the villain is very thinly written and has very minimal justification for his actions. He does make references to some stuff that happened during Enterprise, which I thought was nice, considering no one in any other Star Trek has ever made reference to that. The Xindi Wars apparently,
which is nice because you're probably one of the two people that actually watched the series.
No, but it's nice for continuity's sake to see, like, even though they had a prequel that no one's ever talked about, now some people are bringing in with mentions.
But what a waste of Idris Elba.
He could have been so much better.
Yeah,
if they had given him anything to work with.
So but he wasn't Khan.
No, he's a life force stealing alien thing.
He has no analog to any of the previous Star Trek
he's a
TV
well,
series.
spoiler alert, he's a human. He's an alien. He drains people's life forces and adopts their look and appearance. And he's a Mako, which is one of the military police from Enterprise, I think. So once they decided they didn't need a military anymore, he lost his job and then he was given a starship. He fucked that up and crashed it, and then just started ripping people's lives out. And has a bunch of soldiers serving him and who are just faceless, like they'd never explain who they are. Just a bunch of dudes, like thousands of them.
Red shirts.
Like red shirt stormtroopers. They like just no idea where they came from. They've got no justice.
Could they shoot straight?
Yeah, they shoot straight.
Oh, okay.
They fly straight into things. So very dedicated to the cause. But God, I hate that film.
Okay, so it's not a hot tip from the BAP.
No. But someone might like it.
But The Expanse is a hot tip.
That is a hot tip.
Yeah. All I can say is that show, I definitely think it got better over the series, and it started well.
I think it's got all the ingredients it needs. It just needs a bit more money thrown at it so they can get a bit tighter on the sets and a bit of the screenplay.
You're right, and if this next season, assuming they keep it, and they keep it tight to the script or to the influences of the book and stuff like that, it can do really well. Although the only thing is, it did seem to devolve. No, actually, that's a spoiler. Sorry, I can't.
I mean, I'll give you one example that doesn't spoil about where the screenplay was a bit loose. So there's a situation where some of the characters have gone off in a little exploratory craft, and the ship they were attached to gets blown up by a military force. Yep. And then the main guy goes, "We're going after them," which seems just
insane.
Yeah. Yes, it's like immediately it's like, hold on, all your friends have been blown up. I realise you're angry, but your situation doesn't warrant you being able to chase down someone who just obliterated your ship with a dinghy.
I think what I really liked about the show was how they made the space, the whole environment, as real as possible. Like, they're in space and it takes a long time to get anywhere. And they'll see ships on the horizon that will not reach them for a long time, yet they're running away from them. And it's like, oh my God, this could take forever. And it's the Expanse, the distances involved and the realities of living in space and the realities of the fact that they introduced the Belters, which you get to know a bit more. And they're people that have grown up in space. They've essentially become they're kind of like the second-class citizens that are doing the mining off on the belts, but they've adapted to living in space, and that's their environment they live in, and they're so much better at it than the other people.
They're like Aussie bogans then.
What?
Second-class citizens who work in the mines. So Aussie bogans.
Yeah, okay, they're they're FIFO stuff. Yeah.
FIFO Aussie bogans.
No, except they never fly home, so they're always out there. Anyway.
So, shall we move into the regular section of the show?
I don't see why not.
Trump got punked.
I was mentioning this Jason before the show.
He was at a rally in Reno, Nevada.
A fantastic rally.
And he brought his hand up to his brow to look at some sort of commotion that was happening in the middle of the rally. And all of a sudden, the Secret Service got spooked and rushed him off the stage.
Well, someone shouted, "He's got a gun." So that's what spooked the Secret
Service. At a Trump rally, that's a very real possibility.
I like how he's the one encouraging those Second Amendment folk to do something about Hillary, and then all of a sudden, someone's a little paranoid.
So, who was this lone wolf that spooked the Secret Service? Well, it was a character called Austin Kreitz, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his second name. He was carrying a weapon, the weapon of words. He had a banner reading, "Republicans against Trump." So apparently, he made his way politely to near the front of the podium, and then he raised his little placard, which read "Republicans against Trump." And so at first, he got the expected boos, but then some of the people immediately next to him started to get violent, trying to grab the placard down
and choke him.
Shit. That happened at a Trump rally?
Yeah.
No way.
Unheard of, right?
For some reason, someone yelled out, "He's got a gun," and then it all went a little bit pear-shaped, and he was thrown to the ground, beaten up a little bit, but he was subsequently released, obviously, and Trump did continue on with the presentation.
And to his credit, he commended the police on doing their job.
There was a good example of another of a black Trump supporter turning up at a Trump
Wait,
rally.
is that someone who supports Black Trump? Is Black Trump a thing now?
It's Bizarro Trump, yes. He must be possibly the only one. Anyway, he's an absolute black Trump fan, and he's a black man. He turned up at the rally and was promptly escorted from the rally because Trump assumed he was an agitator. An agitator, exactly.
An outside influence.
And he really was like as he's being led out, he's going, no, really, I'm a Trump fan. I've been waiting forever to see him and stuff.
I wonder if that presents a a mental quandary for that individual. Like something he's been hanging out for so long. He wants to make America great again.
But seriously, this guy's already come to terms with being a black Republican.
Yeah, fair point.
So
he's obviously well practiced at rationalising these circumstances.
That's right.
This is how we make America great again.
So anyway, the race is getting so much closer. It's like I'm listening to various American podcasts, and I'm just detecting an air of panic in some of their voices as they're talking about this.
It's really hard. That's the problem. The whole American election system is it's voluntary. So if people are pissed off, they don't have to rock up.
Yeah, if they have a low turnout, who knows how they could.
It's always hard to tell what is the poll measuring.
Yeah, and as it's turning out, Hillary Clinton is not an inspiring candidate in any way.
Well, and as suggested from some of those WikiLeaks dumps, Hillary's campaign were having them oversample certain people to make the polls inflate her position as well. So you have no idea how trustworthy the polls are in the first place anymore.
Wow.
There were like 65 journalists across a bunch of networks being complicit in this. It's like, that's crazy. But no, she's not an inspiring candidate. And the Democratic Party knew this when they picked her.
And I remember listening to some of these sort of podcasts that you and I might listen to, Franco, and how they might...
What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Well, you're just an uneducated man. That's But they were dismissing some of these WikiLeaks releases and going, well, that's just showing how the sausage is made. Of course, this is how it works. And I remember thinking, you guys are dismissing this, but this is being revealed to people who aren't normally, following this kind of stuff all the time. So this is kind of new information to them, and it's playing into this whole crooked Hillary narrative. They're going, well, crooked Hillary, and then suddenly all these emails come out, and they go, well, here she is trying to subvert the course of democracy in some ways.
It's even worse than when her own party goes, well, of course we're doing that. And then you're like, oh, so you are all crooked then.
Well, initially, I remember one of the news programs I'm watching, the Young Turks had been pointing out some of this stuff, how the DNC had been thumbing the scale in so many ways. And the DNC was saying, no, we're not. We're just not doing that. And then the emails came out where it explicitly showed them doing this. And he's going, well, what now? It's like... But so the people that are involved and people like you and I just have a perverse joy in actually following this crap. It's not a huge surprise, but to the average punter, it is. I mean, they're going, well, shit, this is, she really was trying to subvert. And then, of course, there was the fantastic quote where they were talking about Hillary. They had some audio of Hillary Clinton talking about the Palestinian elections and how she said, well, I wouldn't have given them elections to begin with. And if we did give them elections, we'd have found some way to make sure we knew who was going to get elected. And we're like, that's democracy. That's the kind of democracy you're really interested in.
Hearing that from Hillary is no surprise. She's a hawk.
But no surprise to people who follow that stuff. But to the average person who is not following politics all the time, it's possibly enough incentive to go, fuck it, I'm not voting for either of them. You know what I mean?
It also cuts into a lot of the criticisms that her camp has against Donald Trump. Whereas he doesn't pay taxes that way, it's the law. I'm just following the law. And then everything he says about Hillary has this resonance of it being true. And they're like, yeah, but everyone does it. We're just doing what everyone else. And it's like, no, you can't say that without making him look like he's right in everything he's saying.
It is amazing, and it is a little bit difficult to try and comprehend why he can say so much heinous crap week in, week out. It doesn't seem to damage him as much as every little revelation that comes out about Hillary does seem to damage her a little bit
because
more.
She represents a political establishment. So if she's doing it, everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
It is interesting that Trump's gaining a little bit of momentum or clawing his way back, or Hillary's going down, however you want to phrase it. It seems like it was an eternity since the last debate where he did
I like
bad.
to phrase it of, he's a very orange-faced man. And it's like the sun is rising. When the Trump campaign is lifting, this orange glow comes over Washington. But the dawn of a new era.
Having the FBI guy come out and saying they were doing new email investigations, I feel
not new. Resuming. They never closed the case.
What's his name? Comey?
Comey, yeah.
I think that's really...
His name is James, isn't it?
James Comey.
Yes, he hasn't revealed.
I'm just saying he has a name.
But it's obviously put any fallout from the final debate has gone into the.
I like how this is technically a Wienergate as well. It's Anthony Weiner's emails. It's Wienergate versus Pussygate.
Who thought Weiner would be hanging around this long?
Who thought Weiner would actually achieve something?
Well, no, he was a fantastic. Have we talked about this on the BAP before? No. He was a fantastic firebrand for the left, right? He really was a good speaker, and he would get up there and he would really take it to the Republicans. And then he got busted sending dick pics on Twitter. And it was like, not just once.
It's the first time
not just once.
The first time you could get around it. The first time you're like, hey, I've learned my lesson.
And then not just twice, actually. Then he was running for mayor, trying to run for mayor of New York, and then got busted a third time while he was running. It wasn't quite the same. It wasn't dick pics, but he was busted talking to someone who was catfishing some guy was catfishing him online and got this text and stuff from him, and then released that stuff. And once again, it all opened up again. The guys are just a train wreck. But then, of course, it turns out his laptop has emails because his wife is Uma Abedin, who's essentially going to be Clinton's chief of staff, probably.
Assuming she wins.
And so I had emails involving the Clinton campaign, and the FBI discovered them. So, while looking for possibly child pornography on Weiner's computer. Crazy stuff.
Like I said, Wienergate. Who would have thought it would bring her down?
Oh, Wienergate.
She's the exact opposite of Trump.
Okay.
That's all I got on that one.
The election is on the 7th, right? 9th. 8th.
It's this Tuesday.
Our 9th.
Tuesday, yeah.
It's Tuesday, yeah. Our Wednesday, obviously. So.
Although for Republicans, it's in the 20th.
28th.
Bear that in mind, Republicans. That's right. You're voting on the 20th.
If any Republicans are listening.
I don't think too many Republicans would be listening to a progressive left-wing podcast.
You never know. Some people hate listening to this stuff. That's why I used to listen to some right-wing stuff.
So I've got some Rodrigo Duterte news. It's not good news, but I've got news.
Does it involve murder?
It does involve murder. So the mayor
of a
town
Franco?
Called
Educated guess.
In the Philippines, Roland Espinosa Sr. was shot and killed this week. Interestingly enough, he was shot and killed in a jail cell along with the inmate who was living with him, so there are no non-police witnesses. It turns out that the police were doing a raid at the time, searching for hidden weapons and drugs, and
someone reached into their
Espinosa
waistband.
Started opening fire on the cops from his jail cell. When the ordeal was over,
so he got a gun,
2 guns, as it turns out. The cops found 2 guns. A .45 and a .38 and a bag of meth, just to seal the deal. They found some meth as well. He was detained because they thought he was involved with the drug trade. Turns out he was involved in the drug trade and gun trade in prison too. So he's dead now, but it's all right. He's a bad guy, clearly a bad guy. He had guns in prison. No one's asked how the guns got into prison. You'd think that the guards...
I guess the police just have a standard framing kit that they throw down at any of these occurrences, and they didn't think to modify it for a jail cell. So they went, guns and drugs.
Guns and drugs. Job done. So Duterte's come out and said the situation is very unfortunate, but the investigation is ongoing. So we'll get to the bottom of this. Don't worry about that. We'll get to the bottom of this. This is actually the second mayor he's had shot now. There was another one last week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was also the other mayor whose name eludes me. It was a candidate for the BAP show, but I didn't bring it. His son was involved in the meth trade. He surrendered himself peacefully to the police. They released him without charge, and then mysteriously he got murdered after he.
Well, he reached into his waistband.
Oh my God, he's coming right for us.
So has there been a mass resignation of mayors throughout the Philippines?
Yeah, who would be a political opponent of Duterte at the moment? That would be a very brave person.
I wouldn't be resigning. I would be singing his praises.
I'd be coming on board.
Yeah, and making sure I got rid of all metal from my house. And also any signs that say Republicans against Trump, because people mistake those for guns too. Get rid of those. Savage stuff.
So, since we're talking about police corruption,
massively.
What do you mean vaguely corrupt?
Well, in the case of the example
clear,
I'm bringing up,
I was not inferring that they were good people. I was inferring that they were corrupt.
But they were shooting criminals, Dean.
Yeah, in a jail cell.
I mean, they were shooting. Why were they in jail?
They were shooting drug dealers, Dean.
Yeah, well, clearly
they'd been convicted. It was an open and shut
charged.
case.
Yeah, they've been charged.
It's a bit lazy though when pretty much the president's giving you carte blanche to murder people in the streets when you go to a jail and do it.
Yeah, I know. You would think you just kill them in the street, don't even bring them to jail. That's probably what happened. The police chief found out. He's like, "What do you mean? There's people in the cells? What? Just go shoot them."
But we can step over to that's how police treat someone in a state that where they perhaps the rule of law is a little bit looser and stuff like that. But what about in America? Surely they treat people a lot better over there.
White people or black people?
Well, that very much it comes into very much part of the question. Actually,
hold on, Jason. America's not great again yet. So
I know. Well, it's on its way according to this story anyway. So there's the Dakota Access Pipeline, and there's a bunch of protests happening over there. The Dakota Access Pipeline, it's a $3.7 billion project.
Oh, is this involving Native Americans?
Yes. Yeah. So this is why this has something to do with how the police might treat them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a $3.7 billion project that would transport crude oil from the Bracken oil field in North Dakota to an oil refinery in Illinois across 1,800 kilometres. So it's a fairly big deal. But at some points it needs to cross Native American land and cross under the Missouri River. And some people have decided these pipelines tend to leak a little bit and they cause all sorts of problems.
Pretty regularly.
Pretty regularly. We'd rather not have our major water source polluted by this thing. So anyway, they started protesting a few weeks ago. Actually, I think probably it started on a small scale probably about 2 months ago, but it's been getting some coverage in the left-wing media and stuff like that. Oddly enough, most of the mainstream media doesn't want to touch it at all. But there's the local Standing Rock Sioux tribe and about 1,000 other North American Indians, Native American supporters.
That the Standing Rock Sioux tribe are well known for their love of hot sauce.
They're really okay.
Well known. So what you're about to say is simply the police trying to help them out.
Okay, yeah. Very much into their cayenne peppers and stuff.
Love it.
Yeah. And a few thousand other Native American supporters from across North America. They've set up camps on the reservation lands, and they're trying to block access to the pipeline production area and stuff like that. And it's managed to get enough coverage that even Obama's come out and called for a voluntary cessation of development by the companies. Voluntary. And the company has said they will for the moment, and the US Army Corps of Engineers has said they want to reassess because they just gave these permission to cross under the river, just carte blanche. They just go, here, you can do it.
We should also
with almost no actual analysis of what the damage might be done.
It's also worth mentioning the pipeline was originally going to go right next to a major city, and the residents there managed to go, that's not going to happen, so they got to move, which is what it brought into the sphere of the Native American tribe.
And so this is they want to cross it under or near treaty land, and of course the Native Americans are having a bit of an issue with that. So they say the project threatens sacred native lands and could contaminate their major water supply. So it's been going for a while. There's been a fair bit of media coverage, and there's you can see initially that was private security forces turning up to deter the protesters, and these private security forces would use things like attack dogs.
No. They were equal opportunity employers who happened to employ some canine employees. They've been looking for jobs, right? It's a rough economy out there. These dogs are just trying to make ends meet and feed their families.
Anyway, all joking aside, these dogs actually did inflict quite serious injuries on some people.
They mauled a child, actually. They mauled a bunch of people and a child.
And there's footage of this happening, and yet, no one's really... I'm stunned that a private security force can assault people with animals.
Yeah, I'm actually stunned they're still in business. I would have thought after you mauled a child, you'd be sued to oblivion and that'd be it, you're done.
It's crazy, isn't it? Anyway, so it's now progressed from there. So the police are now involved, and the footage that you see now is of tanks or APCs and fully armed, just completely weaponized police, and in fact a mobilized National Guard of North Dakota, standing opposite water protectors who are quite often semi-naked because they'll be standing in water and stuff like that, trying to bridge across a certain creek, and there'll be just police just in boats around them and hitting them with pepper spray, your favorite hot sauce sort of options.
It's a lot of work. It's tiring. Sitting there swimming, you need to
using what they call as less than lethal ammunition, and obviously armed with lethal ammunition as well. I'm always a little bit staggered that police feel the need to really dress up and get into full combat gear when they're standing opposite completely unarmed, peaceful protesters. But that's the way it is. and a lot of people draw comparisons to this. So you've got Native Americans protecting their own land. This is their treaty land. And then comparing it to the case of Clive Bundy and his son. So there's 2 incidents where Clive and Bundy originally stopped federal agents from taking his cattle because he used to graze his cattle on federal land and not pay the lease, not pay the grazing rights fees, and actually turned up turned up armed to deter the federal agents from taking his cattle. So there was an armed standoff for some time down there at that area, and nothing happened. It dissipated. They let him have his cattle back, and nothing really happened to him. And then a few months later, I'm not sure what the time frame was, sometime later, his son and a bunch of militia people turn up at a wildlife refuge, take that over with and in armed fashion by force, excluding everyone from this area. And not only do they not take it back off them by force, but they allow government services to continue to process. They let them have power. They deliver their mail. And then eventually it dissipates. And then recently a judge has said they have no case to answer about seizing this federal property and stuff like that.
So can I ask you a question? In the first instance with Clyde, did the government give him his free hot sauce?
No, there was no hot sauce issue.
I can tell you why his son then protested the second time. Right? Because this kind of behaviour happens where Indigenous Indians are given privileges that your ordinary run-of-the-mill white guy can't get. Where's his free hot sauce? Right? What if he can't get enough chili up in his face and he wants it in his eyes? What happens then?
Well, the Dakota Access Pipeline, the water protectors are getting more than enough.
The second story is bonkers. They took over a wildlife.
No, it's absolutely and totally. They were fully armed and they were quite threatening in their use of arms. So if anyone comes in here,
was shot and killed there as well.
Not there. He was leaving, and then he got pulled over by the police and decided he was clearly
in a jail cell, and they found drugs.
He pulled a weapon. Yeah. That was really weird. Like, he was leaving the area, and he pulled a weapon on a cop who pulled him over in a car. So it was like,
yeah, anyway. that's a dead man, really. Not even that's a silly move. So did the guys taking over the wildlife thing? Did they draw their weapons any time, or they were just carrying them?
They were carrying them around a lot.
That's fine. If they got open carry licenses, they got nothing to answer for, yeah.
But I don't know if one of the cases that happened at the Dakota Access Pipeline is that someone with a Dakota Access Pipeline issued car and badge in his car, which they found later on, turned up saying he was a protester, had an AR-15 on him, and started pointing it at cops. And the water protectors were saying, "Who is this guy? Get him out of here!" And it turned out later on they found that the car was a Dakota Access Pipeline. It was insured by the company that insures them, and they found a badge of his in the car that he was an employee of the Dakota Access Pipeline. So he turned up and was waving a gun around, because up until that point, of course, everyone had been peaceful and no weapons or anything like that. So they got instigators in there.
That's not a good look for the company.
Well, it doesn't seem to matter, because then recently as well that a drone was sent. This was by the water protectors.
Hang on. It was a tactical hot sauce delivery system.
No, you're thinking wrong kind of drone. This is one with a little camera that the actual protesters sent up to send over to the drill pad, which was supposed.
So it's an illegal weapons platform.
Clearly, I'm surprised.
Putting the risks of law enforcement officers at risk.
And I don't know how it wasn't shot down, Dean. I don't know how. But anyway, they flew it over, and apparently work has not stopped. Progress is not stopped on the drill platform, and they are still going ahead. So, and meanwhile, Obama was in an interview, and he's quite happy to sit back and let it play out. He says, "I want to see how this plays out." Well, the way it's playing out is that the water protectors are getting tear gassed, and the drilling company is going ahead with their work. So that's how it's playing out.
Well, it's also playing out sort of business as usual for the white
So I'd like to point out,
taking the land belong to native people.
This is what's happening in Obama's America. I don't think sometimes I think that perhaps people that say it couldn't be worse under Trump are possibly actually right, because it doesn't seem to be making any difference who's in power
I think Hillary would be more of the same, which means that the corporatism would continue, and I think Trump would probably continue with the corporatism.
But it is amazing. So you got the racial element between, say, Clyde and Bundy.
You know what would be different though? Trump would probably make sure the people doing the work building the pipeline didn't get paid.
It's true. It would be cheaper under Trump.
It'd be way cheaper labour. It'd be a great deal.
Faster.
Tremendous.
On time.
Anyway, that's my outrage for the week.
Yeah, that's up there.
Our friend, Bill Shorten. Well, I don't know if he's our friend, but we seem to like him at the moment.
You never call Bill. Vote into the show.
He dealt some short shrift to Dutton's thought bubble. That might be overstating at what he did.
Dutton had a bubble? Wait, which is overstating? You're overstating that Dutton had a thought bubble, or you're overstating that Shorten shot it down?
It's probably both.
Because I'm not sure Pete thinks in bubbles. He needs simpler shapes than a circle.
So if you recall last week, Peter Dutton introduced a bill to ban asylum seekers who had previously tried to enter Australia by boat, only boat. If you come by plane, you're good, you're golden.
If you overstay your visa by plane, not a problem.
You're all fine. But if you come by boat, since 19th of July 2013, and had been sent to detention centres on Nauru and Manus Island, you're being banned from ever allowed into the country. It's very specific, isn't it?
It was like he was trying to clean up a specific problem he was dealing with at the moment that he couldn't find a third party to take off his hands.
Pauline was very happy. Pauline Hanson, One Nation, was very happy with this. She welcomed the news of the bill being introduced, thinking it's the coalition taking footnotes from One Nation.
Yeah, I mean, in a way it is. Well, Corey Bernardi wouldn't say that, but I'll say that.
So what Bill had to say about this, I mean, it was that he says the government's plan to ban asylum seekers looks like it was designed to appease the coalition's right wing. So it's good to see that initially Labor, represented by Bill, is not going to allow Dutton to use this as a wedge issue. And that sort of, I've had a few more points to say on this, but then you sent me a really interesting article by, I've just had a mental blank, Paul Hewson. John Hewson, the former Liberal leader.
Yeah. Also, I like the way he writes now.
Yeah,
but at the time, he would not have been a good leader.
He's an enlightened individual, isn't he?
He's an enlightened individual now.
What do they call it? It's woke Hewson.
Yeah. But he was very much in favour of right wing economics, deregulate, lose all the public industries.
I don't think he was quite as hard right though as.
He's pretty hard right. His policies were pretty hard right.
His economic ones were.
Economic hard right. Yeah, okay. Which is fine. He's just like he's really good writer now, and he criticised the Liberal Party really well.
Yes, he wrote this excellent piece that Dean put me onto, where he was really getting into the coalition's short-sightedness, particularly with the only sort of policies they're chasing up is anything that can wedge the opposition. That's as far as
they're still stuck in the opposition mindset.
Yeah,
trying to score points.
I encourage listeners to go search that article out because it was
we'll stick a link up on the website.
So anyway, obviously the Labor Shadow Cabinet will meet on Monday to discuss their response to this legislation. And the Labor caucus will meet on Tuesday, so hopefully there'll be a response from Labor on Tuesday as to how they're going to go with this vote, but hopefully they'll push back against it.
You'd have to hope so. I mean, I know it's a big issue with Australia, apparently, where over 50% of people want no Muslims moving here type of thing, but this is just inhumane to further punish people who are already fleeing for their lives.
But you're right. The problem is, it does seem to be a popular sentiment here.
Yeah,
People don't care, and I'm related to these people.
It's interesting. There's one little glimmer of hope that if this bill does get through, Greg Barnes of the Australian Lawyers Alliance said if the bill was passed, it was likely to be scrutinised by the High Court and could be even found unconstitutional. There's hope.
But the treatment of these people is already being called may not be unconstitutional, but it's already been called out as human rights abuse by international bodies. So it's like we're already there. I don't think the fact that this bill is going to be called unconstitutional may not make any difference.
I think what you'll find is there's certain groups that they're looking for the right opportunities to bring these cases to the High Court, and this would be an excellent one. Indefinitely punishing someone seems like in contravention of some.
It's definitely.
Well, they've been waiting a long time to bring those cases because this indefinite detention has been in place since.
But every time they get to bring a case, the government changes their tactic, and they can't bring that case.
They've gone through the pace, and as Dan said, they've backtracked.
The government just backs down, and then they can't do that exact case. They have to start another one.
Because the government doesn't want to allow any precedent to be set by the High Court against any of their policies when it comes to immigration.
I've got a little bit of potentially positive news that maybe relates to this. When I say positive, I mean, kind of positive. So, as you're probably both aware, and our listeners maybe are aware, Family First Senator Bob Day, who was going to resign and then was going to hold on for a bit,
and then had to,
then actually has now on Thursday come out and resigned. So, some would say finally, I would be one of those some. Finally, he's resigned after much deliberation about his future. He had a construction business that went tits up. You may or may not know. Rather ironically, Malcolm Turnbull was trying to keep him on to get his vote to secure his Australian Building and Construction Commission. through to punish unions. It's weird how someone who owns a construction company might be on side with that. It's not in any way a conflict of interests. He was also they were also looking to keep him around so they could secure his vote on the plebiscite in support of same-sex marriage, or the plebiscite designed to divide the nation over the issue of same-sex marriage.
So they were hoping he would vote for or against?
In favour of the plebiscite. To prevent a free vote.
Okay.
Now, it turns out not only has he resigned, but his candidacy for even being a senator in the first place may actually be invalid. You see, he actually owned the building that he was using as a campaign office, and the government was paying the rent on that at the time. Now, that's a bit of a no-no. So Family First cannot choose a replacement senator.
Oh, wow.
This has to go before the High Court to decide if he was a valid candidate at all, and if he's ruled ineligible,
Trump-like kind
then
of
the next eligible candidate in the election order list gets it, which means it would flip to Labor.
Ooh.
Now combine this with another semi-interesting note, which is that the One Nation Senator for Western Australia, Rod Cullerton, very intelligent man he seems, it turns out that he was elected while he had been convicted of a sentence that carried more than 1 year's imprisonment, which means he is not eligible to be a senator either. That charge has since been overturned. It's been overturned.
Oh. But just out of interest, what was the charge?
Larceny. So... anyway,
but it was overturned.
It was overturned. He's not a thief.
So he's not a thief. Okay.
But
a court says he's not a thief.
Court says he's not a thief. However, not eligible to be elected. So he's challenging that in the High Court now. Not sure on what grounds. He just is. I guess because it's been overturned.
Yeah, because it's a bit harsh. I mean, if someone's brought a charge against you and it turns out to be wrong, and I don't know.
Yeah, but you've lost in court. You know, like sort it out first because you've been charged. You're going to appeal it, fine, you're appealing it, but maybe you should be aware that, hey, my life focus right now should probably be on appealing my false conviction.
I remember reading about where a case like this, it was in the US where an incumbent politician was causing like an attorney general to bring charges against a political opponent so that they couldn't
contest the election.
Frivolous charges, so they couldn't contest an election. I was going... Yeah, okay, so I can understand why in this case, if it ended up being overturned, they should just let him...
Well, they may.
Let him serve. Yeah.
However, that could end up changing the makeup of the Senate again, because One Nation cannot supply an alternate candidate because he was ineligible at the time, which means it would then go to whoever was next on the list. And I haven't done my research to say who that's going to be. But it could be Labor, it could be another Green, it could be anything.
Another Green would be good.
So we could be seeing some changes in the Senate makeup, which would make it even harder for the government to get 9 of the 11 crossbenchers, because if they lose the Family First guy and a One Nation guy, they would need all 9 of the 9 they have available. Which they're not going to get.
There would be some deal-making going on, obviously. Or another election.
Yeah, well, Malcolm Turnbull's probably just going to cry into his handkerchief.
Yeah, but he really doesn't want this job anymore, I think.
Yeah. It's not the best $2 million investment, is it?
Yeah. I feel like he probably thought the job would be a bit more... When he was overseas, like he's travelling around, he seems all right.
He saw that Tony could do it and figured it must be a doddle.
Yeah. If that idiot can do it, he eats onions and he can do it.
Yeah, that's right.
The University of Technology 18. What happened was
the computer lab that was no whites.
Yes, it was a lab assigned specifically for Indigenous students.
It was a lab, what?
And the administrator of the lab approached 3 students and asked them if they... Afterwards, though, they posted on a Facebook page that was like a university memes page type thing. There were 3 comments posted. The first one was, just got kicked out of the unsigned Indigenous computer room. QUT is stopping segregation with segregation. A second post alongside that one was, I wonder where the white supremacist lab is. And a third comment was posted up saying, ITT niggers. So anyway...
in this thread?
On this meme page.
No, I know, but... So were there any other comments? Was it just 3 comments?
It's been a bit hard for me to discern. I did a bit of research on how this all escalated, because one of the aspects I was interested in was this computer room administrator who's launched this seeking $250,000 of compensation through the courts using 18C. I wanted to know, what process had led up to this? Was there any mediation before it went to this? Did the university and the students and the administrator try to work this out somehow? No, there's not a lot of information on that side of thing. And once again, with regards to these posts, they didn't mention whether additional post likes or anything like that. So can't really go into that.
Why were African Americans reading the page? I don't understand why they'd be on the main page.
So Judge Jarrett said the comment. And Mr. Powell, who made the second comment about where is the white supremacist lab, the comments in the category of mere slights and not sufficiently profound or serious to attract. Final comment, the individual that made that denied ever of making it. He's saying someone hacked into my account.
Oh, just use
Now, it wasn't seen by a full bench of the High Court.
I, for some reason, thought that this case was the white students and not the university trying to ping them for writing a page.
No. Well, no, the university. So basically, it was
the administrator.
Apply financial.
Some kind of damage?
Grossly offensive. Apparently.
Yeah, ANC makes it humiliate or intimidate a person or group on the grounds of race, and obviously there's an identity. And I mean, this is one of the...
God, that's a messy bit.
Malcolm's your man. He's going to change that.
So the one thing is, this case has panned out as it should have. The case got thrown out. Weren't necessarily there. Who've gone through a lengthy and expensive process in financial hot water when the students try and reclaim lawyer fees.
The student service or the guild even defended them. It's pretty bullshit, the behaviour. At the same time, it's kind of their job to defend students from...
I mean, the only piece of information about it initially was the university asked Mr. and some of the other students to remove the comments, which they did. But there's no information about what process was tried to meet. She left, stopped working altogether. She couldn't work with white people anymore because she felt intimidated. Information explaining how she got there. Did she just leave, throw up her hands in there and left?
I feel like if you bring legal charges against someone, they're probably not going to like you afterwards.
I'm also wondering.
Well, I mean, that's what I mean. Was it, 0 to 100? I've gone straight to the 3 months of negotiation.
I'm also become an environment was that required the creation of a lab.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with the.
Just wondering what was happening in Queensland that we need to have an Indigenous lab because copying it elsewhere or something. You know what I mean? Is that the environment they're existing in?
Too many golden Labradors. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
The right result was achieved.
What the hell was that?
I don't know.
I believe the right result was achieved. However, it was a very expensive process, and 3 years of all people participating in his lives have been put on hold by this. One has to think there must have been a much more sensible approach that could have dealt with Miss Pryor's concerns or perceived ill treatment.
Well, the university had the comments taken down.
Yeah, but I mean...
As you said, you couldn't find that they'd gone through any mediation beforehand.
Yeah,
so
and there's no backstory about...
But that would be private anyway.
Was this just the tip of the iceberg of other incidents that have been happening?
what caused the creation of the Indigenous lab is there been an ongoing system of persecution in the University of Queensland.
Journalists have gone down that path to present me as a lazy individual.
Because it just strikes me, it would be unusual for someone to go, God, you know what? I think I'm going to open myself up to all sorts of criticism and create an Indigenous lab for no good reason. You know what I mean? There's probably some reason behind it.
Most of the articles I read about this case was, probably about 50. None of the articles went in any way to make Miss Pryor look like a sympathetic character. There was pretty much no information from her side of the story besides the specifics.
Okay. What sort of sites were these that you were...
Just mainstream newspapers.
Stormfront? Mainstream, mainstream Australian newspapers, okay, yeah.
There's
not much Indigenous sympathy on those newspapers.
Well, there's a lot of sympathy put forward for the students. And pretty much it was very clinical treatment of Miss Pryor.
Well, you got to be careful because she might sue you. So.
Perhaps
that's a good point.
I mean, there's demonstrable evidence there that she's pretty.
She may be litigious. She's happened to go 3 years down the track for it.
Yeah, a couple of guys trying to sit and use a computer.
Yeah. Oh well.
But if Miss Pryor has experienced a lot of discrimination, and this was a traumatic experience, this either, and this results probably.
No. I still think suing a bunch of kids is never going to get treatment.
It's probably not where your first go-to move you'd probably go to. I mean, I can't speak from his experience.
I would have always thought and assumed that a university is a place where Indigenous people wouldn't have to suffer through some of the shit they might go through elsewhere. However, I could be wrong. And University of Queensland could be a good place.
I would assume everyone at universities there, they want to learn. They're
normally a little...
Maybe it's like a farming university where you wear like a red necktie.
That's right. Yeah, it'd be interesting to get some
information. I'll update BAP this Pryor's side of the story.
That would be good. I think we can do it over the phone, Franco.
Well, we could, but at the same time, Franco be in Queensland. So.
That's all I got.
I'm out.
I'm out.
Thank you, BAP. It's been a pleasure. My name's Franco.
I'm Jason.
At 19.